The manga introduces us to Lin Han, a very shy but extremely intelligent boy. His strength is mathematics. He can solve any problem just by looking at it and bring math into real life to fix everyday issues or more complex challenges. For instance, if he analyzes and calculates well, he can take a corner kick with almost divine accuracy. Lin loves writing novels, but he has one big problem. Whenever he tries to focus, everything becomes math to him, even if he doesn't want it to. So, whenever he makes a bit of progress, he goes to Mateo's house, a highly acclaimed and famous writer, to have him assess his work and offer advice. Mr. Mateo always tells him he needs to see things from a less technical angle, but that actually motivates the protagonist, because he's determined to earn a compliment from Mateo. All the advice Araceli's father gives him helps him make great progress. Oh, and you might be wondering who Araceli is, or better yet, let's call her Ara. She's the daughter of Mateo Cho, the writer who helps the protagonist, and she also happens to be his platonic love, although he's never once approached her in his life. And whenever they agree on something, he gets nervous and pulls back. Lin wants to spend more time working on his novel, so he goes to the physics department to give one of his latest problems to Professor Yale Kim and let him know he can't help anymore because he wants to focus on his writing. The professor offers to pay him if needed, but Lin turns it down. While they're talking, the professor tells Lin about the uproar in the soccer team over violence and how several players are going to be expelled. After hearing him out, Lin says he's not very interested because sports just aren't his thing and decides to head out. Earlier, Professor Kim asks him why he doesn't try playing soccer, and Lin just laughs, saying someone like him could never play that. Afterward, Lin Han rides his bike to the writer's house to get one last piece of advice and hand over the latest part of his novel. He peeks through the gate and spots the goddess Ira. When he sees her, he's practically drooling, but her father gives him a mean look and scares him off. Meanwhile, we notice someone is tailing him. It's none other than Dominic Hio, the current left forward on the soccer team, who has been following the protagonist ever since he watched him throw newspapers into a basket with incredible accuracy. He did it so many times without missing that Dominic thought if the kid used that same precision on the soccer field, he'd be the exact player they needed to turn him into a playmaker. Another thing you should know about Dominic is that he's a former Liverpool youth player, which means he's a natural-born soccer genius. Dominic had been following the protagonist for a while. We see that Dominic is incredibly fast and agile, but just as he's about to catch up to him, a flower pot on a balcony gets knocked over by a kid's ball and looks like it's about to fall on Lin. Before that happens, the young man reacts quickly and, using a railing, manages to avoid disaster with impressive control. All that was left was to land properly, but a puddle gets in the way, and he ends up falling. Lin, who didn't realize he had just been saved, gets scared when he sees him, thinking he's some kind of crazy person, so he bolts as fast as he can. Dominic gets frustrated, and just as he's about to chase after him, he gets a cramp in his leg and ends up flat on the ground again. After a while, Esteban, the current captain of the school soccer team, shows up. He seems to blame Dominic for what happened with the team, but the young man denies having anything to do with it and, moreover, makes it clear that it was the best thing that could have happened. After that, Lin tells us that since he was a child, numbers have meant everything to him, and his mind always solved everything with calculations, which isolated him from people because no one understood him. Then, he tells us that he started liking Ara when one day at the library he was going to take a book, and it turned out to be the same one she wanted. From that moment, he saw in her an unsolvable problem. In other words, he fell in love. Another day we see that Dominic, Ara, and Lin were in the same classroom, but they never talked to each other. The teacher scolds Dominic because he never comes to class, and when he does, he is always distracted. Before continuing with the sermon, he sees that Lin is worse, so he calls him to the front to solve a problem. Lin solves it without much effort, though a bit embarrassed. When he looks back, Dominic recognizes him as the guy he had followed the previous day, and says that now that he knew where to find him, he was going to make him pay for everything from yesterday. He had even forgotten that he was looking for him to play on the team. Later, we see Dominic talking to Juan, the team's center forward, who tells him that he will need at least 3 weeks to recover from the injury he has, leaving Dominic thoughtful. Juan asks him what happened to the secret weapon he was going to bring from Liverpool, and Dominic responds that things got complicated. Then, a ball hits Dominic's face. The guilty ones apologize and ask Lin, who was passing by, to return it to them. Lin remembers the problem he solved in class and says it's the same situation, so he does the necessary calculations and, with a flawless shot, not only returns the ball to them, but also scores at once. Dominic is even more surprised because he realizes that the main character calculated everything before throwing and tells him that they need to talk. Or rather, he drags him to talk with him. Dominic tries to explain what happened that day when he was following him, in other words, when he saved his life. Lin understands, apologizes profusely, and thanks him. Then, he asks if he can leave, but Dominic tells him no, as he needs help with something. So, along with Juan, they drag poor Lin to a place to evaluate his football skills. But, as we all know, Lin is terrible at it and fails at everything. This angers Dominic, who directly asks how he could kick so precisely a while ago if he was so bad at sports. Lin replies that it was because it had been the same situation as the math exercise that the teacher had given him to solve. This confirms what the boy was thinking. But since he had promised the team a secret weapon and he was out of time, he puts a plan into action. Taking advantage of Lin, he convinces him to help. Juan says it is a bad idea, but he is ignored. Upon arriving at the training, Dominic introduces the boy as the secret weapon. As expected, everyone gets angry and doesn't believe him because he looks very shy and scrawny. After a lot of discussion, they decide to play a match to test the protagonist's skills. The first years will play against the second years. Right before starting, Lin asks Dominic about the rules, and he replies that he just has to score in the other goal without using his hands. Lin calms down, and the match begins. As expected, the second-year students were stronger and more experienced than the first-year ones. But Dominic recovers the ball and advances at an incredible speed. With skillful dribbles, he gets past Jaime, who is a very good and fast defender. Then, he takes on everyone he encounters along the way, but Jaime doesn't give up, and suddenly appears with a spectacular tackle to regain possession of the ball. Dominic is left lying on the ground, while Jaime starts running towards the opposing team's defenders. One of them manages to take the ball away from him, and it falls at the feet of Lin Han, who, a bit scared, remembers Dominic's plan. This involves throwing the ball to a spot on the field where he will always be ready to score the goal. Dominic gives the signal as he runs towards the opponent's goal. Lin prepares to kick, but realizes that with a high shot, he won't reach Dominic, so he switches to a through pass, surpassing all the opposing team's players attempting to reach the ball. This catches Dominic by surprise, distracting him and almost causing him to miss the ball, which ends up in the hands of the goalkeeper. Despite that, the young man smiles. Esteban realizes how perfect that pass was, but something is wrong and Lin is exposed when the ball is about to fall on top of him. Since that was not part of the plan, he ducks and lets it go, and by chance, it ends up in the net. Everyone is furious with Dominic for trying to deceive them, but he insists that what the team needs are Lin's passes and that, with training, he will be the best. Despite this, nobody listens to him, at least not until Julian Wong shows up, a third-year student and a youth player for the Japanese national team. After reluctantly greeting everyone, he says that if Lin wants to join the team, he has to beat him one-on-one. If his strength was accuracy, they will play 3 rounds consisting of knocking down 3 cones at different distances. Dominic accepts without hesitation and very confidently thanks him because it is already decided. Then, they agree on the date, which would be next week. But Dominic had forgotten that he dragged Cairo there and that Lin never wanted to join the team. Therefore, he leaves as soon as he has the chance. That day, Lin is so tired that pedaling is difficult for him. Considering his physical condition, it was to be expected. Suddenly, Dominic shows up and, upon seeing him, Lin speeds up to escape. But Dominic doesn't give up, and with his speed, catches up to him. When trying to convince him, Lin flatly refuses. Then, out of nowhere, Ara appears greeting Dominic. Lin blushes and takes advantage of the moment Dominic gets distracted to leave quickly. Then we see Esteban, Jaime, and Dominic in the principal's office, who tells them that because of the soccer team, the school's reputation is declining. When he tries to blame Dominic for everything, the 2 boys intervene because deep down, they know he did nothing. As they can't find what to do, the principal decides he will eliminate the football team. Dominic intervenes, saying that if those involved had already been expelled, it wasn't fair for everyone to pay the price. Now that the others weren't there, the team could be better. After a good talk from the young man, the principal decides to postpone the disbanding of the team, but clarifies that he will eventually do it sooner or later. Then, in the hallway, Dominic thanks them for defending him, but the boys tell him not to get confused. They just don't want to lose more players and leave. During class, Dominic watches Lin looking for a way to convince him, but nothing occurs to him. Then he realizes how Lin looks at the girl and deduces that he likes her. With that in mind, Dominic intercepts Lin in the schoolyard and takes the novel from him, thinking it was a love letter. Then, he threatens to reveal his secret if he doesn't help him, to which Lin responds that he can do whatever he wants, that he doesn't want to join that group of violent people, referring to the football team. Those words hurt Dominic a little, who returns the novel to him. The boy apologizes and leaves, leaving Dominic alone. From a window, a player mockingly asks how the training is going, to which Dominic responds that it is going well and that he will not give up easily. The next day, while Esteban and Jaime walk through the hallways, they hear how the other classmates tease them and whisper that it's the end of the soccer team. This makes them angry, but they can't do anything. Esteban, determined, says he will insist as much as he can for the team to keep going. Meanwhile, in the classroom, Lin reveals to us that the novel he is writing has Araceli as the main character. Suddenly, a thug takes away his paper and tells him that he is tired of him because he is always studying. Lin asks him to please give back what belongs to him. The bully throws him against the desks and starts reading the novel aloud. Everyone in the classroom is listening, including Ara, but just as he is about to read the protagonist's name, Dominic arrives and takes the paper away from him. Very confidently, he asks him not to mess with the weaker ones. This angers the bully, who is about to hit him. Dominic becomes serious, but ends up with a black eye and somewhat frustrated, although for the first time he can talk normally with Lin, to whom he comments that the novel is a bit boring, that if he changes this and that it could be better. This surprises the young man, as he had been unable to make progress for days, and Dominic had solved it in seconds. Lin is so surprised that he asks Dominic if he is a genius or what, to which he responds that he is just very creative. Then, he comes up with an idea and proposes to the protagonist that he will help him with his novel, but in return, Lin must help him with football. Lin still has doubts, but Dominic whispers something in his ear that convinces him immediately. The boy celebrates, and out of nowhere, pulls out a contract and has it signed. Later, we see the thug unable to sleep because he wants to know the name of the protagonist of Lin's novel. The next day, Lin is training under Dominic's supervision, and it must be said that he looks very stylish. The main character misses many shots, and although Dominic tries to explain that he needs to change his stance and the way he hits the ball, he doesn't understand. Then, the boy looks for a ruler, and, with precise data, explains what he has to do. In this way, Lin understands immediately and manages to hit the target without much difficulty. Then, Dominic explains the basics of soccer to him, which are dribbling, passing, and shooting. He also tells him that he doesn't need to master them all, because if he stands out in one, his teammates will cover the others, since soccer is a team game. Afterwards, he calls him a turtle for being so slow, stating that he needs to train more to improve his physical condition. Something Dominic doesn't say is how surprised he is by the way Lin can bring his calculations onto the field, because it's one thing to think and another to execute it on the field with such precision. Meanwhile, we see how the soccer team trains while Julian just sleeps on the grass. The players who don't know him say he's lazy, and that's probably why he was kicked out of Japan's youth team, while others defend him, saying he's a great player. In fact, the redhead claims that Dominic is no match for Julian at his best. Going back to Dominic and Lin, they continue practicing, but the little one stops being accurate with his shots, which surprises Dominic as he did not expect his stamina to be so low. That's why he decides to stop the training. Lin doesn't want to stop, but Dominic explains that it's enough because continuing might cause an injury, and that is not what they want. As night falls, we see Julian in his room trying to study. But like you, he keeps waiting for a video to be uploaded and can't concentrate. Then, Esteban knocks on the door, and he opens it, letting him in. Esteban is there to ask if he could take over the team's captaincy, but Julian flatly refuses, arguing that it's too much work and Esteban should do it. For now, the only thing he will do is take care of the annoying Dominic and his young rookie. Oh, and now that I remember, if Lin loses, Dominic will have to leave the team. The next day, we see that everyone is already at the test site. In fact, Julian is already warming up. Here they are informed that Esteban cannot attend, so Jaime will be the replacement judge. Meanwhile, the rest of the team thinks Lin is not coming and that Dominic has surely given up. But nothing could be further from the truth. They appear out of nowhere with an overflowing aura. Julian welcomes them and thanks Lin. Lin asks why, and Julian responds, I thought you were scared, but I see you are not. Thanks for coming. Dominic intervenes, telling Lin to apologize to Julian. The boy asks why, to which Dominic replies, because Julian is going to face the greatest hardship of his life today. That comment makes Julian very angry. Then, Jaime begins explaining the rules of the test, which are, first, to pass, they must knock down all the targets before their opponent. Second, it doesn't matter if they hit or miss, they will take turns kicking and will have 10 seconds to do so after the whistle blows. 3, it is only considered valid if they hit the target on the cone. With the rules clear, the first to kick will be Julian from 10 meters away. Luckily for Lin, he misses by centimeters, making Dominic relax a bit. Now it is the protagonist's turn from 10 meters away. Lin focuses and does not miss, which excites Dominic. Despite that, Julian smiles and says with a serious face that he doubts he will pass the test. Julian's second attempt. He fails again, which worries his teammates, but makes Dominic happy. Again, it is Lin's turn. He notices the wind has picked up and realizes the shot will be more difficult. With this in mind, he grabs some grass, releases it, and analyzes what is needed. The others mock, but after careful calculation, Lin throws and manages to knock down the second can, leaving the score 2-0 in his favor. Everyone is impressed, but Julian, even after seeing this, remains confident and finally gets serious. On his third attempt, from 10 meters away, he hits the target effortlessly. It's the protagonist's turn again. Without much thought and sure of what he's doing, he shoots, but narrowly misses. Lin doesn't get it. He had actually calculated correctly and shouldn't have failed. Once again, it's Julian's turn, who kicks and hits the target for the second time in a row, telling Lin that calculations in football are not everything and that he has something the other doesn't, a player's instinct. The boy doesn't care about this comment and tries again, failing once more. This angers Dominic and makes the others happy. It's Julian's turn again, and before kicking, he asks Lin if he knows why he failed, since his calculations are perfect. While kicking, he asserts that the boy lacks strength, leaving Lin and Dominic surprised. Julian had knocked over the third can, and his friends were celebrating, but Jaime says he hasn't won yet because the rules are to knock over the can, not the cone along with the can. It's Lin's turn again, who kicks his third attempt from 30 meters, failing once more, but noticing something surprising. He really lacked strength, as Juan had said. Dominic is worried, and Julian laughs a little because he knows that he won the test due to Lin's lack of strength. Or at least that's what he thinks. In another scene, we see Esteban talking to the high school principal, who tells him that, for the moment, he wasn't going to disband the soccer team. But it was thanks to Dominic because he saw a seed of change in him. Even taking that into account, there were several conditions. One was to end abuse and violence at the club. The other was that they had to reach the semifinals of the national championship to regain the prestige of the school. Esteban says that with the current team, that was almost impossible. But the director responds that they either achieve that or disband the team immediately. The director also tells him that he hired a new head coach, that is, a new technical director, and new staff for the training sessions. Esteban thanks him and leaves. Returning to Lin's test, it's his turn again. But as he thinks too much, his time runs out, giving the turn to Julian, who misses by very little. Julian tells Lin that this is his last chance, because if he fails, he won't miss next time. Lin doesn't hear him because he is focused. Lin takes his position. He knows that no matter how much force he tries to put into the shot, it won't reach. So he gets serious and makes an even more precise calculation. He kicks, and when everyone thought it wasn't going to reach, the ball bounces and manages to knock down the can, leaving everyone amazed because he even calculated the ball's bounce. Julian becomes humble and says, "Well played, welcome to the team," while shaking his hand. Dominic celebrates and congratulates him. Then we meet the high school kids Soojin and their coach, named Carlos, who celebrate their 1-0 victory against one of the most prestigious high schools, called Hanyang. The coach tells them not to celebrate too much, as their next game to move forward in the national tournament is against Guanjin High School, where little Lin plays. He says that in another time, they would definitely lose, but with the current situation of Dominic's team, they just had to play their football and they would win, since only 3 players could be a nuisance: Esteban, Dominic, and Jaime. and the others were just in excess. Back with the guys, Dominic explains the rules of soccer to Lin. He teaches him the basics. He tells him he needs to improve ball control and receiving passes. Lin does not understand anything, and as Dominic no longer knows how to explain it to him, he asks Julian for help to train Lin, to which Julian immediately refuses, but he says, "Watch out behind you." When turning around, Dominic saves Lin from being hit by a ball from the old team. They argue a little, but nothing important. The redhead asks Julian if he can train with them, and obviously, Julian says no. Dominic gives up on Julian, but Lin plucks up the courage and asks himself. Julian initially doesn't want to, but they reach an agreement and he accepts. And if you're wondering what the agreement is, it's that Lin helps him study and Julian trains him. Later, we see several members of the team being informed by Jaime that, in the first round of the national championship, they will face Soojin High School. Everyone, except Dominic and Esteban, celebrates because, according to them, it is the worst team in the league. They have never managed to win since they founded the team, and they say it will be very easy. But the captain tells them, maybe it would be like that in another era, but aren't you forgetting that our team is almost incomplete? Currently, we must be the worst team in the league. Jaime adds to this by saying that Soojin's team had beaten Hanyang High School in a friendly match, and that, after recruiting the new coach, they are a very different team from the one they already knew, which is confirmed by an orange-haired boy. He also says they had tied with the Real Madrid youth team, surprising everyone. However, Dominic and the redhead ask Jaime, who is this dwarf who is talking so much? Then they realize that it's their new coach, Simon Wu. He tells them that for now, nothing will change and that they can play as they want in the next game. But he warns them that if they lose, the club will be completely dissolved, surprising everyone. Which is also the same situation for Soojin's team, because the high school could not support a team that did not deliver results. This surprises the kids a lot and seems a bit unfair to them, but the coach calms them down and tells them that as long as they trust him and show everything they have learned, they will surely win. Then we see Julian training with Lin, but he is really bad at it and doesn't understand anything Julian says. However, Julian figures it out and explains in a very fun way how he should receive the passes. He tells her to imagine being a pillow and that the ball is an egg coming towards her, and she has to catch it without breaking it, which leaves Lin a bit thoughtful. And, after a few mathematical reasonings, which I'm not going to mention, he manages to conclude that he knows how to do things. After practicing for a while, he manages to receive the ball like a true professional, and he did all this in just one afternoon. Then Dominic arrives and has a bit of an argument with Julian because he was saying that they wouldn't get past the next round. When he leaves, Lin asks him to teach her something she wants to learn tomorrow. He accepts. Then we see Captain Soojin training hard until late. We watch the days go by and everyone is getting ready a lot for the next game. Lin is doing very well with her novel, and she is also keeping her word. The days go by and the awaited day comes, the day of the game. In the locker rooms, Lin feels intimidated by the others. But here we meet Nathan, one of the nicest guys we can meet with a really, really good story that I will tell you about later. He chats for a while with Lin, but then Dominic enters and everyone gives him a bad look. Dominic doesn't care at all, and when he reaches Lin, he asks if anyone has bothered her today, scaring poor Nathan, who runs away. Jaime reveals the starting 11. In goal, we have the redhead. In defense, Jaime is the right back, Bruno is the left back, and as central defenders, we have Miguel and Timoteo. As the central forward is Steban. In midfield, to Dominic and others. Lin is benched for this match, and Julian decides not to play because he doesn't feel like it. Seeing this, the coach takes everything into account. With everything ready, the teams take to the field to start the game. But first, in the stands, there are two boys whose identities are unknown, although they are very interested in seeing Dominic's skills. Guanjin starts the ball rolling with a rather passive touch game, but they lose it due to a distraction by Bruno, granting a throw-in to the Soojin team. However, Jaime intercepts it and crosses it to Esteban, who is pursued by an opponent trying to take the ball from him with his body, but he doesn't budge. And, with a great feint, he gets past him, crossing the ball to the right flank, where Jaime starts sprinting until he crosses it back in, which is cleared by the defense, falling at the feet of Dominic, who plays it back to Esteban. The defenders from Soojin try to sweep it away, but Esteban makes a tremendous shot like Cristiano Ronaldo. scoring the first goal. Everyone celebrates, but the Soojin high school team doesn't seem affected by that goal, and, on the contrary, they get serious. This surprises Dominic since after seeing a goal, the opponent's spirits should have diminished. But no, they are more confident. Soojin crosses and starts to advance with very precise touches, dodging the midfielders until reaching the defense, which is also surpassed. However, Jaime slides spectacularly, sending the ball out for a throw-in. While they get into position, Soojin kicks towards the area. The Guanjin players try to defend, but collide in the air, leaving the ball loose and in an excellent position for Soojin's center forward to attempt to score a goal. He tries with all his might, but Jaime comes from behind and interrupts the shot, causing it to go out for a goal kick. Dominic gets serious and tries to change the pace of the match. Soojin has possession. They cross a long pass into the area, but it is punched away by the redhead. Jaime also rejects it towards Martin, and he, with a feint, and while Dominic advances, crosses it over. When Dominic touches the ball, the referee raises the flag, signaling offside to Dominic, surprising everyone, as Soojin's team perfectly executed an offside trap, showing us they were very well coordinated. The game resumes. Soojin's team attacks, manages to shoot at the goal, but the red-haired player easily catches the ball. He passes it to Timothy, who, seeing Dominic running towards the goal, tries to make a through pass, but it ends up as a throw-in. Lin takes the ball and is going to give it to Dominic. He gets quite angry because it's not their throw-in, and mentally he says, "You should be playing." Jaime manages to recover the ball, passing it to the central defender, who sees Dominic subtly asking for the ball. Miguel passes it to Dominic, who, in the style of Neymar Jr., leaves the defenders behind with some truly epic feints. When he succeeds, one of them fouls him and knocks him to the ground, receiving a yellow card. Dominic gets angry because, according to him, it should have been a red card. When he got up, he noticed that his leg hurt a lot, and when Jaime was about to make the pass, he noticed that Dominic was injured and it seemed to be something serious. So he looks for Esteban, who gets free and passes the ball, but it's blocked by the defense and falls to Dominic's feet. He returns the ball to Esteban, who controls it with his chest and shoots powerfully at the goalkeeper, who can't catch it and deflects it, hitting the crossbar, but it's still in play. Esteban jumps to head it with all his might, but the goalkeeper catches the ball confidently. The referee blows the whistle to end the first half, with the match 1-0 in favor of Guanjin. At halftime, everyone is quite tired, and, despite winning, Dominic says, "This is not an advantage. Those guys have spectacular physical condition and understand each other perfectly. We have to take care of ourselves." Then they show us a flashback of how the coach trained them, but I'm not interested in that episode. So you just need to know that the coach made them better at their weaknesses, and with that in mind, they became players capable of covering any position. The second half of the game starts. The Guanjin team is under heavy pressure, with 4 players marking Esteban until they take the ball from him, which they use to charge forward. With a series of super precise touches, they find themselves face to face with the goalkeeper. The boy shoots and scores, tying it 1-1. With great happiness, they celebrate. Juan tells the coach that he wants to play and, very dramatically, looks at the camera, but the coach says no and asks Nathan to get ready. With 15 minutes left, Ara and her 2 friends arrive at the stands, but it's not very relevant. Dominic is very tired, but Soojin hasn't finished, and with a couple of changes, the coach adjusts the formation. Taking advantage of the confusion of the yellow team, the ones in black, with almost perfect coordination, manage to reach Guanjin's goal. Jaime takes a shot, but the opponent steps on his foot, managing to shoot at the goal and leaving Jaime on the ground. When the game stops, Dominic asks for a substitution, and when Juan is about to enter, he tells him that he won't play today, that his replacement will be Lin Han, surprising everyone. The match resumes. It seems that Jaime is okay. The 4th referee gives the signal for the substitution, and Lin Han enters the field. He, very nervous, tells Dominic that he doesn't think he can do it, but Dominic encourages him by saying that today is his big day, as the goddess Ara has come to watch the match, and he should try to get noticed. He also tells him that the only thing he regrets is not playing their first game together, but that he trusts him and his skills, which gives Lin courage. Lin goes into the game and stays as before. Soojin keeps attacking, so much so that he shoots at the goal again, but the redhead is alert and catches it effortlessly, then clears the ball towards midfield, where Nathan Ming manages to head it, sending the ball to Lin, who controls it with his chest like a true professional, but, taking too long to move, loses possession. Soojin's team starts an attack, forcing Guanjin's team to retreat, but Jaime shines by intercepting the ball, starting a counterattack that catches Soojin's team a bit off guard. Jaime passes it to Nathan, who trips, letting the ball go out of the field. Lin helps him up, and Nathan takes the opportunity to say a few words that greatly motivate Lin. Now, Guanjin has possession of the ball in midfield, but they can't find a way to get through Soojin's defense. Lin asks for it. Jaime, who has the ball, a bit hesitant, passes it to him. Lin analyzes everything and decides to make a pass that seems to go to no one. But Esteban appears out of nowhere to receive that great pass, managing to shoot at the goal. The goalkeeper deflects the shot, and just as it's about to go in, it's cleared by a defender, thus saving Soojin's team. Jaime congratulates Lin, also telling him that from now on, in this match, he will be the key to success. Guanjin attacks again. Lin has it once more, delivering a good forward pass to the captain, who, due to fatigue, fails to reach the ball. Soojin's head coach tells his team to only defend because they will win the match in overtime. At the 87th minute of the game, Lin has a new opportunity, and, while calculating, Esteban moves forward. But when Lin is about to kick, he is tackled by a Soojin defender, and the referee, upon seeing the action, blows the whistle for a foul, which for the Soojin boy is unfair because he did not touch Lin. What is true? But from the referee's perspective, it was so without further ado, he gives him a warning, granting a free kick to the Guanjin team. Lin gets up and Jaime informs him of the situation, telling him that he will be the one to take the free kick, as it is the best option they have. While Lin prepares, the others do the same. After calculating for a moment, Lin looks at Dominic. He gives him a sign, giving him more confidence to shoot. Everyone on the field is on edge, including Ara and her friends. Soojin's coach orders to mark Esteban, assuming that, being tall, Lin will aim for him. Lin kicks and the ball soars towards Esteban, who, very determined, jumps to head it. The goalkeeper moves in the direction where he thinks the header will go, but, surprise, the ball goes over Esteban, entering the top corner of the goal and scoring an amazing goal, leaving everyone surprised, except for Julian, who had previously taught Lin how to kick with spin, thus making the game 2-1 in favor of Guanjin in the final minutes. Then we are shown what Dominic's sign meant. According to Lin, he wanted to say, "Your calculations are correct," but Dominic actually meant, "Aim for Esteban's head." At the end of the match, we see the Soojin team devastated by the loss, which moves Lin greatly. When Lin is about to console them, Dominic stops him, saying that it will make them feel worse, since in such situations, it's better to let the other team learn that in soccer, you win or lose, which angers Lin, who walks away from Dominic. Before leaving, both teams thank their coaches, and their Jorge, Soojin's coach, asks Lin how long he's been playing soccer, to which Lin replies, "For a week," leaving the guys surprised. As Lin walks away, a voiceover tells us, they will meet again sooner than expected. Ara's friends relax upon seeing the boys advance to the regionals, and one of them says, "The 16 has potential," while Ara exchanges glances with Lin and wonders what the boy's name is. The next day, while Lin feels guilty for ruining another team's dream, he is interrupted by Dominic, who asks him what it felt like to score a goal for the first time, to which Lin responds that it doesn't matter because he is not a player and doesn't see it as an achievement. Dominic tells him that what he lacks is competitiveness, but that as the games go by, he will acquire it. But they are interrupted by Ara, who greets Dominic and introduces him to her friend Mika, who apparently likes Dominic and brings him a little juice, which he foolishly refused. While Dominic talks to Mika, Ara asks if, by any chance, the guy who was with Dominic was the one who scored the great goal in yesterday's game, to which Dominic responds that it was so. Ara, very pretty, introduces herself to Lin, congratulating him and telling him that she was very surprised, which makes the boy nervous. Dominic is happy to see that his plans are going well, but everything goes wrong when she asks Lin for his name. He tells her, but also adds that he is leaving, without explaining anything to the girl, which makes Dominic quite angry. Then we see Simon Wu meeting with the assistant coach, the fitness coach, among others, talking about the current situation of the team, which, despite being at their lowest point in terms of cooperation, prove they are tough. The coach asks how they did in the regional tournament, to which the assistant replies that they are in Group G, but they have to face very tough teams, including last year's runner-up, and they need to be among the top 3 positions in the standings to advance. The coach is a bit optimistic. He asks about Juan's recovery, but they tell him that he won't be able to play in the next match, as it's best not to take any risks. They also ask him what's going on with Julian, why he doesn't want to play, to which the assistant coach responds that he will tell him later, leaving us all wanting to know. At the same time, we see the guys finishing training, already packing up their things, but everything goes out of control when Juan asks the third-year students to help as well, since everyone trains but few clean up, which makes Martin angry. When he confronts Juan, the latter ignores him, causing Martin to try to hit him with a boot. But before that, Jaime stops him, although he can't do much either, so Lin also gets involved, getting Martin to insult him, but he is saved by the captain when Martin was going to hit him. Esteban calms things down and helps to pick everything up, but Martin says that Lin will pay for it sooner or later. Later, while Lin and Nathan are walking, the boy tells Nathan that it felt really good to score the goal, but that he felt very sad for the other team. Nathan tells him he understands, but also warns him not to get into these problems again, saying it's complicated to explain, but he doesn't want him to experience what he did. At that moment, they are intercepted by the guys from before, who tell Nathan to leave because they have to teach Lin a lesson. But before that, let's move on to Simon Wu, who is talking to the second coach, who asks him why he became a coach at that school when he had a license to lead a first division team. Was it perhaps out of love for his old high school? Letting us know that Simon played there. And, in a flashback, Simon tells us that an old acquaintance offered him a lot of money to train the kids at this high school, so much that he couldn't refuse even though he had a license for first division teams. However, when he found out that the son of that strange man studied there, he decided to reject the money, but he couldn't back out from being the coach, so he ended up as the technical director. But the assistant coach tells him that he probably stayed because of his past. When Simon was about to answer, they see the boys through the window and start watching what was happening. Nathan tries to stop them from bothering Lin, but when one of them starts insulting him, he is saved by Julian, who is passing by. Still, the boys continue to bother. Nathan asks them to stop and they take it out on him, but since he doesn't defend himself, Julian intervenes, telling them to stop bothering their classmates. The fake Dominic gets angry and tells Julian that he knows why he left the youth team. That's why he wants to take it out on them now. Julian gets angry and says, "Let's see, tell me, but if you say anything, I'll kill you today." Martin doesn't care and starts telling him that he knows he returned from the youth team because he bought the spot with money, because his talent wasn't enough to secure the position and, in addition, he paid at school to get back into Guanjin, which is currently one of the leading high schools in football. Julian gets so angry that he proceeds to give a severe punch, received by Nathan, who intervened to prevent another fight that could dissolve the team. He asks Julian, almost begging to stop, but Martin, while leaving, insults Julian again, which enrages him even more. Just as he is about to hit him, Lin intervenes and asks Martin and the others to leave, which they do. But they tell them, before leaving, that they are not the problem, that the problems are elsewhere. We went to see the group that was with Captain Esteban in the locker room, where they received the unwelcome visit of the third-year boys who had been expelled. The captain, without hesitation, faces them and says that if they are here for the things they left, he will send them over later. But with a slap, the former captain silences him, leaving everyone shocked. He also tells him that he has been talking too much lately. After intimidating everyone for a while, the guy goes to mess with the redhead, who is quite scared. But that was the boy's biggest mistake, because Esteban will not let anyone touch his teammates, clarifying that he didn't react to their punch not because he was afraid of them, but to avoid hurting them, because he respected them as teammates who shared jerseys. He proceeds to grab one by the neck and throw him, but this angers the guys more and they try to attack, although he gives them what they deserve. The leader of the boys tells them it's time to go, but before that, he warns the team that next time, the same thing won't happen again. After that, we see Lin and Nathan walking, while Lin comments that she can't believe what Martin said about Julian. It was impossible for him to be that kind of person. Nathan tells her that's a lie, since Julian was one of the best players at Guanjin High School before going to the youth team. His level was above any player currently, which is why he had come so far. He asks Lin not to believe in those things. Then we see Dominic talking to Simon Wu, who very seriously asks him to tell him everything that had led Guanjin to that situation. Dominic tries not to do it, but he has no choice. And he tells us that, since his arrival from Liverpool to Guanjin, he noticed all the mistreatment the boys received from their leaders under the pretext of improvement. In fact, once he saw how the assistant coach they had before hit them with a bat, and when he told the head coach, he was told to shut up. From that moment, Dominic decided to change everything that was wrong in the club, as he hated the way the team's ideals were based. Thus, thanks to his skill, in his first year he became one of the club's most important players, but also one of the most rebellious. He didn't let himself be intimidated anymore. Well, he never let himself be intimidated by the third years, who, unable to handle Dominic, took it out on the freshmen, causing many players to start hating him. However, seeing that he stood his ground, several freshmen began to follow him, starting a possible change in Guanjin. Even Juan, who at that time was also one of the best players on the team, started to follow Dominic, causing those in the third year to inflict that injury on him, as a warning or something like that. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, Esteban, even though he was a third year, never bothered the newbies. On the contrary, because of his attitude, he always received beatings. The truth is that this guy is a hero, man. But what the third years did to Juan, Dominic wouldn't let it slide, although he was looking for a change for the team. Many kids, including the redhead, only saw him as the one to blame for the third graders beating them up, and that is why they have little patience with him. Later that same night, while the kids were being mistreated, someone had left a camera recording from Dominic's locker. He had also summoned the third year and first year students to meet, which led to a street fight, resulting in the scandal we now know, for which the third year students were expelled. But all the blame of the team fell on Dominic, who did not admit or accept anything, although he proposed to improve from now on and achieve a better sports environment. Also, in the background, we see how Nathan clarifies that he saw Dominic did empty his locker completely and that he never left a camera. The one who had done it was someone else from the team, but he didn't know who it was. Returning to the present, we see the assistant coach talking to Simon Wu, wondering how they will improve team coordination for the first league match when the relationships among the players were so bad. Simon jokingly says, "If we take them camping and make them play spin the bottle," which angers the assistant coach. After that, we see Julian on the high school rooftop, wondering if everything he achieved in soccer was really thanks to his effort, which we don't know. Until he hears the voices of Dominic and Lin, who, by chance, go up there to practice while they are on break. Dominic says, without knowing that Julian is listening, that he is surely better than him, but Lin responds that he shouldn't be so sure, since Nathan had mentioned that Julian is an indispensable superstar. This makes Dominic a little angry, and he throws the ball to Lin, but Julian stops it, surprising both of them. Lin apologizes to Julian for what happened yesterday. He tells him not to worry, but Dominic accuses him of spying on them. And meanwhile, Julian says to Dominic, "If you are so confident in your skills, how about a one-on-one?" Dominic replies, "Whenever you want." But that doesn't happen for now, folks, so calm down. Then we learn a bit about the rival team, Seong FC, or rather, some of their best players. Simon, a speedy midfielder obsessed with beating the fastest opponents. Louis Lee, the team's second forward, and Theo Lee, formerly a forward for Guanjin and now captain of Seong by fate's design. They train and defeat their opponents. After practice, they ask Theo if he wants to go with them to buy new shoes for the rookie. But he refuses because he has to meet someone. And in the Guanjin locker room, we see how Dominic tries to ask Jaime for a favor, but he doesn't cooperate. So Lin asks him personally and invites him to have an ice cream to convince him to help improve as a defender, since Dominic believes he will be used in the first match. After thinking it over, Jaime agrees. At the same time, we see the kids from Seong walking, while the little guy Simon is also eating ice cream, and coincidentally, it is the same flavor as Jaime's. So these two, having things in common, will not get along, I swear to you. Later, their paths cross, and we see that Dominic is surprised because the boy from Liverpool, whom he had asked for help before meeting Lin, now is part of the opposing team. A very epic chase begins, joined by the little blue dwarf, who wants to compete with Dominic to see who is faster. But, by not looking ahead, he crashes into a post while running, leaving Dominic to chase the Liverpool kid, who, after almost escaping, is surprisingly caught by Dominic, who reveals to us that his name is Ho, and, apparently, he is a formidable player, as he can play in any position, though he is a star when it comes to defending. The other day, during practice, Dominic tells Jaime everything he knows about Ho, because according to him, the match just got more complicated. But Jaime says, "Relax, something will be done. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, apparently, the captain knows Theo. Here is a bit of history, which they do not go into deeply, but they let us know that they will give it their all on the field to win. Let's continue. Then we see Simon Wu making a strategy and telling us that the key player for that match will be Nathan, who arrives where they are later. The coach tells him things which we are not aware of, but what he does make us understand is that it is something very important for the match. Later, we see Lin walking down the street, thinking that Jaime is very fast, but feeling a bit down because she can't stop thinking that he was to blame for Soojin losing and that it was why they were so devastated. But he casually meets Soojin's captain, who, after a long talk, makes Lin understand that he had nothing to do with it and that they are still fighting for what they love, wishing him luck in the championship and asking him to score many goals. Oh, and I wanted to include this scene to heal Lin's trauma, because I was getting tired of it. On the day of the big match, as Dominic leaves home, one of his shoelaces breaks, and he comments that it's a bad omen. Later, we see how everyone gets on the bus, but Lin and Dominic go by bike, since the main character had put on slippers instead of boots, which forces him to return, and Dominic accompanies him. Once at the stadium, we see the coach of the Seong team giving instructions to the boys, while the whole team is very determined to win. In the Guanjin locker room, we see how the coach announces the starting players, causing a bit of frustration as he put Nathan as the second forward, which, according to many, is not the boys' position. However, the coach tells them to be quiet, as he is the one in charge here. The game is about to start, and we see all the players coming out of the locker room very dramatically, where we see Nathan very nervous, being calmed by Lin, and Martin being provoked by one of Seong's players, whom Martin threatens. Keep this in mind, folks. We also see a bit of a spat between the coaches, as Seong's coach tells Simon Wu that he chose the worst team to start his career, implying he must have been under a lot of pressure, mocking him a bit. But Simon Wu responds, "You should be the one under pressure since you're like Paris Saint-Germain. Lots of money and few titles. Watch out, they might kick you out of management." Then, the players greet each other, and Dominic wishes his former Liverpool teammate a fair game, telling him that today one of his shoelaces broke and he knew what it meant, advising him to be careful, slightly scaring Ho. And so, the first match of the tournament begins. Seong starts with a passive touch of the ball. Touch after touch, but calm. A boy stands in front of Lin and tries to block him, but they pass the ball under his feet and continue their advance, passing it to Theo, who, when marked, makes a wall pass with Ho, thus continuing possession of the ball. Theo sees Simon trying to overtake and asks him not to, while he, with the ball at his feet, advances, seeing Lewis in a very good position, to whom he makes an excellent pass into space, breaking the defense and allowing Lewis to score an amazing goal very easily, without the redhead being able to do anything. But the bell saved Guanjin, since the boys had applied the offside tactic, invalidating the goal. But the Blue Dwarf takes the opportunity to boast about Theo's great pass, because, according to him, he is among the top 3 in the region. But Timoteo defends himself, saying that they also have someone much better than him, inadvertently complimenting the goalkeeper. Even the goalkeeper says that they will see what a real pass is, making Dominic smile, because they already see Lin as another player on the team. Resuming the match, the red-haired player passes the ball to Lin, who controls it very well, surprising the coach. Lin starts to advance with the ball at his feet, reaching the midfield, where he notices that Esteban is being marked by 3 players, including Ho, the kid from Liverpool. So he tries to look for options, which he doesn't find because everyone is marked. But Dominic moves forward, showing a gap which allows Lin to kick, and when they think the ball is going to Dominic, it curves and falls right where Nathan was, who receives it with his chest. While Nathan covers the ball, Dominic dodges a defender to ask for it. But Nathan passes the ball back to Martin. He didn't expect it, so he ends up losing the ball to Ho, who then passes it to Theo, who yells at Simon to run while throwing him a long pass. Dominic falls far behind, and it seems that Simon will reach the ball without problems. But Jaime joins the battle for the ball, matching his speed, preventing Simon from reaching the ball and leaving Simon surprised by Jaime's speed. Theo is also surprised by Lin's great pass and tells him that he'll see who is better, scaring Lin a little. But Captain Esteban approaches Lin and, with a very arrogant tone, asks her to pass the ball to him next time, since he is really the forward of the team, leaving Lin a little uncertain. Theo and Louis also talk, saying they are going to do that. What will that be? We'll see. The match resumes. Guanjin has possession. Bruno passes to Lin again. We also see Dominic, who cheers Nathan up a bit. Nathan thanks him. Lin starts running towards the goal, and the captain breaks away with a quick move, giving Lin the chance to pass to him. What surprises everyone is the bicycle kick that the captain executes, getting a shot that skims the post, leaving the entire Seong team scared. After the scare, Seong advances with Theo in possession of the ball. Quickly reach the Guanjin area, where the goalkeeper comes out trying to stop the shot, managing to clear it. After that, there is a small passing contest between Lin and Theo. Theo realizes that despite having trained his passes so much, the child surpasses him, becoming a bit distracted. However, assuming that Lin must have also dedicated many hours to improvement, just like him, he gets back into the game and starts playing as a team, making a great pass for Simon to run. But Jaime faces him head on. The blue dwarf tells him he won't catch up. But, according to this chubby guy, whose name escapes me, Jaime used to be a forward and the fastest. But he became a defender when he recognized his limit in ball control, becoming the fastest defender in the region. Continuing with the race for the ball, it's very close, until Dominic enters, who tries to sweep the boy to take the ball, but doesn't succeed because the boy jumps, leaving Dominic behind. They are face to face again with Jaime, who manages to catch up again. And when he is about to steal the ball, the guy makes a feint at speed, managing to leave Jaime behind to proceed to shoot at the goal, which disappoints everyone as he sends the ball sky high. After that attack, Jaime tells Dominic not to go down if he's not going to do anything, to which Dominic responds not to take it out on him for losing against the mop hair guy, who, by the way, celebrates with Theo because he was faster than those two. The match continues. Dominic has the ball. As he advances, he encounters Ho and tries to dribble, but Ho is not fooled and marks him immediately. After another feint, Dominic passes the ball under Ho's feet. Thinking he had gotten past it, he is stopped by two more defenders who are very well synchronized, getting caught in Ho's ultimate defense technique. Dominic is surprised and left without passing options, while Ho tells him, "You fell for it." Despite Dominic's attempts to escape that situation, he can't. But someone from his team slightly distracts one of Ho's guys, and Dominic takes the opportunity to dribble past one of them, managing to move forward. Then he tries to do the same with Ho, which he succeeds in, but Ho sweeps him, and Dominic, with no other options, applies Neymar's trick, thus managing to win a free kick in his favor, and at a more than close distance for you-know-who. The buddy Lin gets into CR7 mode, and Bruno, the redhead, and Timoteo, who used to reject him, cheer him on a lot. Even the coaches say that, for Lin, this was like taking a penalty kick due to the short distance. Dominic boasts about his genius and wishes him luck, but he also warns him that he used Neymar's trick to give him this opportunity, telling him not to disappoint him, while we see a little teasing in the barriers. Lin proceeds to kick, scoring a very epic goal that is annulled, surprising everyone. And, if you're wondering what happened, I'll explain, people. Martin started arguing with one of the opposing team. He received so many provocations that just when Lin kicked, he committed a foul on the guy who was bothering him, which the referee saw, and that led to the disallowance of the goal. The guy messed up so badly that even the player from the other team thanked him for being so stupid, which made Martin even angrier, as he was being held back by Jaime and the other guys to prevent him from being sent off. But Dominic was very angry, so much that he grabbed him by the neck and insulted him, letting him know he was trash for ruining the chance they had worked so hard to get. And when he is about to hit him, the other kids pull him away, but Martin gets angrier and throws a punch at him. The captain holds his hand and asks both of them to stop and keep playing quietly. The game resumes, and Ho has the ball. As they move forward, he throws a little balloon, which seems to be going towards Lin, but no, Theo jumps and heads it, slightly hitting Lin and leaving the ball at his feet to continue the attack. After a pass to Louis, who handles it and dribbles a bit past the defense, the play ends with a great goal, leaving the match 1-0 in favor of Seong, who celebrates for now being in the lead. As the spirits of the Guanjin team are declining, the situation worsens, since Lin can no longer stand, and, after the stomp he received, he collapses in great pain. While Lin writhes in pain, Dominic approaches him to ask if he's okay, telling him not to overexert himself, thinking it was a cramp. But Theo comes over, explaining what happened and apologizing. They don't say anything to him, they just help Lin to stand up. Dominic tells him that if he can't continue, not to worry, that he will ask for a substitution. Lin replies not to do it, that he's fine, and that the first half will end soon, so he wants to play it. Dominic congratulates him for being a bit more competitive than usual, giving him a pat that almost breaks his back. Meanwhile, Dominic tells us that he's warming up, asserting that he will decide the fate of that match. The game resumes. The ball is at Lin's feet. He tells us that the pain in his foot is gradually fading, but for now, he can only make short passes. As he advances with the ball at his feet, he is intercepted by Ho, who tells him that they finally meet. After a few words, Ho distracts Lin, who tries to move forward even though his foot hurts. Dominic, from behind, asks for the pass, but is immediately blocked by the blue dwarf, leaving the main character with no passing options, which allows Ho to take the ball. After that, nothing much happens. As the first half comes to a close, there's an offensive move by Guanjin that Ho blocks, leading to a final attack play by Theo, who makes a powerful shot at Ulysses' goal, missing by inches. Thus, the first half concludes with the match at 1-0 in favor of Seong. During the break, while they hydrate, Simon approaches them. Martin has made clear that the referee is not the only one who can suspend him, to which Martin responds that he understands. The other kids are asked what they think is going wrong. Timoteo says the forwards can't find their place, which makes Nathan feel a bit useless since he is part of the forward line. However, he hasn't done much, coming to the conclusion that the best thing for the team is for the coach to replace him with Julian, a suggestion later made by this chubby guy whose name I don't remember. Julian, who is watching the talk, stands up in a cool way and tells the coach that he is going to warm up, implying that he is ready to play the game. But the coach tells him that he is misunderstanding. The match resumes. We see Nathan still on the field, who tells us that when Julian wanted to go out to play, the coach had clarified that the team did not need a player who wanted to play only when he felt like it, making it clear to him that being good did not make him better than the others, and making everyone know that he fully trusted Nathan. This motivates Nathan, who promises to give his best to justify the coach's trust. Dominic asks Jaime to push the defensive line up. He refuses because if they do, Simon and Lewis are likely to break through, which would leave them in a bad position. He also says that he can't pull it back, as that would leave Theo with an advantageous distance to shoot at the goal. One of Theo's team places the pass to him. He receives it. Dominic is worried as there is no one to mark him, or at least that's what he thought. Nathan quickly positions himself in front of Theo, telling us that the only mission the coach gave him was to mark Theo for the rest of the match. Theo tells him that he will never block him and tries to pass to Nathan, who stands firm, forcing Theo to cross the ball to Ho, who prepares to make a pass to the forwards. However, out of nowhere, the golden boy appears, who, with an excellent slide tackle, retrieves the ball, proceeding to advance, and then cross a slightly forward pass to Dominic, who, despite his efforts, cannot beat the defender, who sends the ball out of bounds. Here, Dominic tells us that the pass didn't reach him simply because Lin's foot was still hurting, which you can see from his little face. Despite being shaky, he still wants to give it his all on the field. Jaime is responsible for the throw-in. He passes the ball to Lin, who catches it with his chest to move down the field. Dominic asks for it, although Lin says it's better to pass it to Esteban. He tries to pass to Esteban, but his foot makes it go too low, allowing Ho to clear the ball and send it for a corner kick in favor of Guanjin. Lin is about to take the corner, but Dominic tells him to let him do it, as he thinks he can kick better than Lin in those conditions. Lin agrees. Jaime asks him to defend with him, ordering the chubby guy, whose name is Miguel by the way, to go up and support in the attack. Dominic gets ready, and everyone else does too. Dominic takes the corner kick, which goes to the center of Seong's penalty area looking for Esteban's header, although Miguel heads it first, leaving the ball in the air to be caught by Seong's goalkeeper. Seong's coach orders a counterattack. The entire Guanjin team tries to get back to defend. The goalkeeper sends a long pass to Louis, who reaches the ball just before it goes out of bounds, starting the run towards Guanjin's goal. Although old Jaime matches him in speed, the guy stops suddenly, tricking Jaime, although Jaime doesn't fall for it completely, standing right in front of him to block his way. Lin, though a little later, also gets into position to defend. Jaime tells him to remember what he taught him. He says to him, "We just need to hold him off for 10 seconds until the team arrives." Lewis, upon hearing this, says to them, "Do you really think your team will manage to get here before mine?" While Lewis tries to get past the two boys, the other team members try to reach where they are. And no matter how much Lewis tries to dribble past Jaime, he can't. The first one to get close is the dwarf Simon, so Jaime, with no other options, tries to kick the ball to Louis, but fails, allowing Lewis to evade his marker and proceed to advance. Although Lin is still in the middle, determined to mark Louis no matter what. Lin tries to predict with his calculations where Louis will go, but the boy manages to pass him before he realizes. Lin, seeing that the player was escaping, resorts to the old reliable move, making a very dangerous slide tackle on Louis, which surprises everyone. Although the referee does not stop the game, Lin calculated his tackle very carefully, managing to deflect the ball. Ulysses goes for the ball. Seeing that he won't make it, he goes for a slide tackle, but Louis manages to touch the ball just enough to chip it, sending it straight to the goal. Just as the goal was about to be scored, Jaime miraculously appears and, with one last effort, manages to clear the ball. Although Ho manages to keep it, and, taking advantage of the goalkeeper's poor position, he makes another chip shot. Ulysses quickly dives for the ball, but the little blue one arrives, who, with a header, scores Seong's second goal, leaving the match 2-0 in favor of Theo's team, who celebrate while Guanjin's spirits continue to decline. Lin blames himself, but Jaime makes it very clear to him that he did what he could, and that if it hadn't been for him, the goal would have been scored much earlier. While others lament, Dominic still says he can change the game, he just needs a chance. Guanjin resumes the game. Bruno makes a bad pass, although Timoteo manages to keep the ball. While they attack, Coach Simon Wu mentions that many have lost the desire to play, but there are still players eager to win, which will be key to changing the pace of the match. Theo manages to recover the ball, easily dribbling past Nathan, who did not expect that feint. El Pitufo takes possession of the ball after Theo's pass. Facing Lin and Jaime, he decides to make a long self-pass, knowing he will win the ball with his speed, but is amazed to see Jaime catch up and even overtake him, regaining possession of the ball, leaving everyone in Seong amazed, because the Smurf never lost races. Here, Simon Wu explains the difference between acceleration and velocity, which is a bit tedious to read, so we'll just say that Jaime is faster than the blue dwarf over long distances. Although the ball fell to a player from the Guanjin team, Ho managed to touch it, sending it towards Theo, who is still being marked by Nathan. It is becoming increasingly difficult for Nathan to avoid him, so much so that despite many feints, he cannot escape and tries to make a pass that is blocked by Nathan, leaving him surprised. The ball is loose in the area. Just when it seems like Ho will take it, Dominic appears, who, at high speed, starts to move forward alone. Very determined, he dodges the first defender by passing the ball between his legs. He dodges the second one to bend a little to the third. The fourth tries to touch the ball, but Dominic turns, managing to continue his advance, leaving everyone speechless. Esteban supports Dominic's attack, who uses him as a distraction for the other defenders while continuing his advance. The last defender makes a tackle to try to take the ball from Dominic, but he fails as Dominic jumps with the ball, making a self-pass with an epic move, and then shoots at the goal, scoring an amazing goal that leaves Seong's team surprised, while Dominic looks at them saying he only needs one more. With this goal, Dominic makes the score 2-1. The game resumes. Dominic takes control of the ball again, starting to advance once more, taking on everyone in his path. One of Seong's defenders asks Ho if there is any way to mark Dominic. He replies that even he, who played a long time with Dominic, could never predict one of his tricks when he's in top form, as he's a player who doesn't show signs. What makes the situation worse is that Dominic is the king of tricks. The only disadvantage he has is stamina, so the only thing left to do is tire him out before he scores more goals. As Dominic advances, two defenders close in on him. He, without hesitating, passes to Nathan, who quickly reads Dominic's move and returns the ball to him to keep advancing. After dribbling past many players incredibly, Dominic runs into Ho, who tells him he didn't want to show him his special skill. But it's time. Dominic just smiles, telling him that today he will destroy him, so he stops thinking he's all that. While Dominic is cornered by the good coordination of the defenders with Ho, Captain Esteban tells us that he has no way to help Dominic, as there are no gaps in Ho's defense. Dominic calms down, starting to provoke those who were helping Ho. He tells them that he won't fall for those words, and that they should just give him the ball because he's very tired. Dominic replies that he's just tired of how boring it is to play with losers, causing one of the defenders to get offended and try to take the ball from him. Dominic takes the opportunity to dribble and try to escape from the defensive prison he is in. Theo tries to take the ball, but he doesn't succeed. Dominic keeps dribbling like a real star. Guys, he actually takes on about 6 players epically, but I'm too lazy to comment on it. What should be highlighted is that the last one he dribbled past was slightly destabilized, causing the ball to go a bit long. Even so, Before the goalkeeper could catch it, Dominic speeds up to the maximum, managing to pass it to Nathan, who had followed Dominic's play from the beginning, getting into an ideal position to shoot at the goal, or at least that seemed the case before a remaining defender, led by Ho, intervened. Even though Nathan already had a play prepared, after receiving the pass from Dominic, he makes a spectacular back heel towards Esteban, who is running down the right, and without hesitation, he fires a spectacular shot at the goal that is miraculously blocked by Ho's face, leaving the ball loose in the air, awaited by the captain, Nathan, and the defenders of Seong. But Dominic, racing for the ball, asks his teammates to step aside, soaring into the air to perform a spectacular bicycle kick that ends in a stunning goal, making the score 2-2, leaving everyone astonished, restoring Guanjin's spirit, and delivering an unexpected blow to Seong. Dominic asks everyone to celebrate the goal, but when he sees Nathan and Lin's celebrations, he decides not to do it. Bruno asks Dominic to continue with the match, since there are only 5 minutes left and a draw would be fine. Lin also tells him it's better to hold on to the result, although Dominic doesn't agree, and with a gesture of thanks, he tells Nathan that they will now look for the winning goal, something Nathan also wants. Captain Esteban looks at Nathan, very sure of himself, surprised that this is Nathan, as he did not remember him like that, and proceeds to tell us that since he joined the soccer team, his routine was to train hard and get beaten up by the seniors for one reason or another. But it was always the same, which made many, although they loved soccer, abandon it, except if one of the seniors didn't hit or mistreat them. He cared about them, intervening so they wouldn't get beaten up too much, and that person was Nathan, who, even though he never got playing time in the games, always trained hard. Although, once everyone was getting hit by those lying jerks, Nathan begged them to stop hitting, but even though he cried and pleaded, the older ones just mocked him, until Theo, who was in first grade back then, stood up for him, although he just revealed himself. Obviously, it was many against Theo. No matter how much he defended himself, the only thing he achieved was getting a beating that left him with a leg injury. Although everyone felt it was wrong, no one stepped in to help. Only Esteban tried to intervene, but he was stopped by Uriel, who told him not to do anything because it would make the situation worse. When they got tired of hitting Theo, they left. After all this happened, Theo left the team. The only good thing about that was that the third year stopped bothering Nathan. Surprisingly for everyone, Nathan never left the team, even though he was never allowed to play a game. No matter the weather or time, he always trained his body with the belief that everything would change at some point. This happened since the day Dominic arrived in Guanjin. Back to the game. Seong has possession of the ball, but Nathan quickly takes it from Theo, regaining control of the ball and surprising everyone, even Theo, who notices that Nathan is faster than him now. Here we see how the coach encourages Nathan and explains to us that the physical condition Nathan had achieved over all those years training without playing was equivalent to having 2 hearts. Back on the field, we see the Guanjin team moving forward, led by Papu Nathan. Folks, here the Guanjin coach starts explaining to us that Nathan, throughout the match, was subtly present, which allowed for that result, as he was the one who appeared in the most key moments, made the passes, and intervened in certain plays, making the game flow more quickly, since most of the Guanjin players were quite tired, and he played several positions at the same time without anyone noticing. Nathan passes it to Esteban, who returns it, achieving an excellent give and go for him to continue advancing until he reaches a favorable position, from which he kicks with all his desire to score a goal, although the goalkeeper stops it very easily. Seong's coach asks his team to start the final counterattack. They do it. Meanwhile, those from Guanjin attempt to reposition themselves to defend. Dominic manages to intercept the play, deflecting the ball towards Lin, who quickly makes a long pass to Esteban, although, due to the impact that still affects Lin, the pass isn't very accurate, ending up too long and heading out of bounds. Esteban, no matter how hard he tries, can't reach the ball, but before it goes out of play, Nathan manages to keep it in, crossing a spectacular first touch pass to Dominic, who, very alert, receives it, easily dribbling past the last defender and, without much thought, kicks it straight to the goal. The shot hits the crossbar, bouncing toward the line from where the goalkeeper manages to clear it. But Nathan is alert to the play, quickly jumping to head the ball, scoring the third goal for the Guanjin team, making the score 3-2 in the final minutes. Everyone celebrates. Lin jumps onto Nathan, crying with him. He can't believe what his friend Nathan had achieved. Very excited, he runs towards the bench where the coach is. Upon arrival, he hugs him and, with tears in his eyes, thanks him for giving him the chance to fulfill his dream, which was to play soccer, the thing he loves most in his life. Here, Simon Wu tells us that he feels very good at the moment being the coach of these young guys. While everyone is celebrating, we see that Martin, instead of being happy, just says it was luck, that what Nathan achieved today was just luck. Julian approaches Nathan and, although only casually, congratulates him on his great performance in the game before leaving, despite the fact that the assistant coach told him he couldn't. In the final moments of the match, no matter how hard Seong tried with all his might, he couldn't turn the score around, ending up defeated by Lin's team. After the game, Dominic talks to Ho and asks him why he betrayed him like that. Ho tells him it was because he came from Liverpool to support Dominic and his team. But the day he called him to pick him up at the airport, Dominic told him that he no longer needed him because he already had a secret weapon. This devastated the boy, so he decided to join Seong. Dominic finds out that it was all his fault, proceeding to apologize to Ho. Although at first he doesn't want to, he ends up accepting them, as Dominic tickles him a lot to make him forgive him. We also see Theo and Esteban settling their differences. Theo clarifies that everything between them is fine, expressing that he's glad Esteban is not like those from the old Guanjin, telling him that he likes his new team, but warns him that he will see him again in the tournament of the best. After the match ended, we see Dominic and Lin accompanying Ho to catch the flight back to Liverpool. Dominic, in order to avoid saying goodbye, runs off to hide. Ho understands it. He goes on to call the captain of Liverpool, who informs him that his request to leave the club has already been approved, which leaves Ho very disappointed because he did not do that, realizing that it was all the work of Dominic, who in his own way wants him to stay in Guanjin, which he achieves, as we later see a spectacular picture of Ho in the Guanjin uniform. The other day, while they are at school, Lin falls asleep in class. Dominic bothers him until he wakes up. Then, he is called by the teacher to solve some exercises, which Lin does very easily, leaving the teacher angry because he wanted to scold him for being distracted. At the end of the class, Era approaches Lin, congratulating him because they had won their first match. He doesn't know what to say. She tells him she will go to see him play the next game. When Lin is about to answer, Dominic arrives, telling Ara to leave as she's in the way and they need to train, which angers Lin a lot, but he can't do anything. Then we see Simon Wu walking next to the assistant coach, who congratulates him for discovering Nathan's potential, something the previous coach hadn't done. To which Simon Wu replies that the previous coach had not discovered Nathan, not because he was a bad coach, but because at that time the Guanjin squad was so strong that they did not need more players. But now, from now on, they will focus on developing the potential of their boys, especially Lin Han, who, despite being very good at learning, has the virtue, if it can be called that, of being easy to read on the field. Upon arriving where the guys are, Simon Wu asks Ho to introduce himself. Ho does so and tries to make a joke, which only Dominic laughs at, leaving everyone else completely confused. After the introduction, the coach informs them that they already know who they'll be playing against, and that he needs them in the best possible shape to get the team ahead. Finally, he hands them a sheet with the players' positions on the team. They are currently in third place in Group G, and the top scorer so far was Eric, a player from Hanyang High School, one of the elite teams in the region, who had only scored 5 goals in his first match, leaving Dominic surprised. Tim approaches Nathan to apologize for how badly he treated him. Nathan says it's fine. After that, we see a boy training. At first, everyone thinks he's a new guy, but it's none other than the old Martin, who had taken off his wig and now looked much better. Even Bruno mentions that it was the best thing that could have happened, since like him, he always confused Martine with Dominic. Returning to the topic of Eric the Mighty, Ulysses tells Dominic that sooner or later they will face his team, and the only thing they can do is try to lose by the smallest number of goals, as they won't even dream of defeating Hanyang High School. Later, Simon informs the assistant coach that they must prepare as best as they can to face a friendly match against Liverpool's youth team, who had chosen them to assess the level of football in Korea, leaving the assistant coach alarmed, wondering why, since there were currently better formed teams. What Simon Wu responds is that surely the 2 guys who used to be part of Liverpool had something to do with it, obviously referring to Dominic and Ho. Well, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Leave your likes, comment a lot so we can continue the story, and as I often say lately, 3,000 likes to secure a new episode. Without further ado, God bless you, and see you next time.